Hello, everybody. We are here on episode number 5 of Split Happens, the podcast, where we talk all things divorce and take the shame out of the process. I am Kelly from K Collections Photography, helping women find their confidence behind the camera. This show is brought to you and sponsored by Balanced Health and Wellness in Wading River, with many locations across the island. And I am joined by...
I am Donna Rudowitz. I'm a licensed clinical social worker as well as a rapid transformational relationship coach, and I help women reclaim their power, recover their brilliance, and attract true love.
And I'm Jessica Maloney, licensed mental health counselor and business coach for female entrepreneurs. And I help high-achieving women become highly sought after and highly paid unapologetically.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. There's
Love
nothing
it.
left out on those introductions. That's what we do, everybody. And we are here to talk about it because we've all been through it. And today I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the kids, the babies. Yeah. Because I would say, right, 9 times out of 10, there's usually children involved, during the process. And no matter what age they are, I think it definitely poses different obstacles along the way. And like anybody going through divorce, I highly recommend that you get yourself a good counselor, a nice little sounding board that's biased outside of your friends or a new relationship or a parent. And I was just speaking with my counselor this week. And, she brought up to me, because me and my soon-to-be ex-husband, we're not there yet. I would love nothing more than for us to be friends, but unfortunately, it's just not there yet. I have faith that we will get there. But 8 times out of 10, I have to bite my tongue and make sure that I'm not speaking badly, in front of them. I will say that they're at a point where they see their dad for exactly how he is, and there is beauty in that. You'll hear a lot of people, and I'm going to be all over the place. They get very frustrated, because they're like, but the kids don't even realize that it's wrong. I promise you, as a mom with teens, they see everything for what it's worth in time. But on the flip side of that, which is good. And the reason that that's good is because, there's certain ways of him being that I don't want my sons or my daughter to think are an acceptable, example of a man or a father or a partner in life. And I'm not saying he's all bad, which segues me into what me and my counselor were talking about. She said, you have to remember through the process that your children are literally and genetically still half your ex-spouses, right? So there's a sense of self-worth and confidence and identity that you still have to lean in and find something positive to glorify this parent for, because you might not realize it, but you're actually devaluing your own children if you can't put your own emotions, your own issues, and all of that to the side and practice speaking good, no matter what you're going through on the sidelines with your soon to be, ex or current ex. And that really sat with me. And I'm really going to make a habit, because, of course he didn't work out for me, but, he's not a horrible person. So I'm going to try and make a habit out of doing that for my babies, for their own well-being, because they're still half him. So I'd love to hear what you ladies, have to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's interesting because so many women will say, well, the kids don't know, or, we're hiding something. You're not hiding anything.
No.
The kids, and unless, again, if we're talking 2-year-old, 3-year-olds, they'll sense something's off. But, as they get older, kids are very aware, they know. And it actually is a disservice because the children need both parents. They love both parents. This is not, they didn't deserve this. Right. No one gets married, number one, to get divorced. And they're in this family. They deserve to be loved and have a safe home. So this experience, they'll be fine, right? But, it's kind of like we do have to think about them. And kids need just a couple of things. They need consistency. They need safety. And they need a calm environment, because typically what will happen with children is if they see mom dysregulated, they will be dysregulated. Right. If they see mom regulated, they will regulate. And so it's important to remember that, again, they're not in the same mindset as you. And this is something too, just to put out there. And Jess, you tell me this in your practice, is the kids now don't look like kids. So you could have a 12-year-old that looks like an 18-year-old. You could have a 13-year-old that looks older, and they appear to be older. What we have to remember is their brains aren't formed until the age of 25 fully. Yeah. And even though they can conceptually have a conversation with you, they are still children. And what I tell my clients is that when the children ask, like, what's going on, you're going to be honest. Hey, listen, we're going through a divorce. We're still a family. We're just a different type of family. And when they ask questions about the divorce, you're going to answer them and just look them straight in the eye and say, you know what? That's a really good question.
Mhm.
I'm glad that you asked that, but that's an adult question. So
Yeah.
when you get older, I will answer that for you. But for
Mhm.
right now, the only thing I need you to do is
Yeah.
be a kid.
I think a lot of
Yeah.
people in the process
You know?
have a very hard time maintaining. It sounds beautiful the way you're explaining
Yes.
it, but
Yeah,
let's
it's always
be real.
easier
On the-
said than
yeah,
done.
on
No,
the
it's
bad
always-
days,
Yeah.
my children have seen us argue. My children have seen me slip, but I really am making a conscious effort, not for my. Well, yes, and inadvertently, it does help my mental well-being to practice this. Everything is practice. Everything is a habit, right? So, it's really very important to not only keep them adult problems, but to also lean in and just maybe speak a little positivity, because you're essentially talking about your child when you're talking about their other parent. They're half them.
But
And
also remember something, right? Like you're going to have an argument with your spouse, whether you're divorced or not.
Mm.
Your children are going to hear you having disagreements,
Mhm.
whether you're going through a divorce or not. Typically, though, when you're going through a divorce, those disagreements are a little more visceral. They might be a little more biting.
Mhm.
They're not as kind. So yeah, I do agree with you when you say, you know, you've got to remember to speak that your father still loves you. I love you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And
I-
and those words.
Yeah, I like
Mhm.
the idea of like kind of almost taking the kids out of it. Like you were talking about
100%.
before, Donna.
They
like,
don't need to be part of it.
my ex likes to very vocally blame me for the divorce because
Mhm.
I initiated the divorce.
Yep.
Same.
What is not spoken about is all the stuff that happened prior to that decision being
That's
made,
right.
which we've talked about here before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when my son gets upset about the divorce and
Mhm.
like, this is your fault, mom,
Oh.
I explain, he doesn't remember, but when he was younger, we would fight. Me and my ex-husband
Mhm.
would be fighting
Yep.
and he would be screaming, "Mommy, Daddy, please stop
Mm.
fighting." And that broke
Oh, you give me
my
chills.
heart
Yeah.
because I grew up in a family where my parents fought all the time. And
Yeah.
I
Same.
hated that.
Same with
Same.
me. Yeah.
So I knew that I didn't want my children
Yeah.
growing up in an environment
Mhm.
like that. So I had to reiterate that, like, Mommy, Daddy were just fighting a lot, and that wasn't good for you, wasn't good for our house. So we
Mhm.
decided to get, live in different houses, but we still love you, like you said. We're still here for you, and like you still have a family.
Yes.
So
It's
I think
reiterating.
it's important to like reiterate what they have,
Yes.
what they get. And like the beauty of like
Yep.
them still having a family and that they're very much loved.
There are some
regardless.
positive pieces for your children in getting divorced. And because I don't think I'd be this conscious if we decided to stay together, they would just continue to see a cycle of dysfunction, So to even sit here and for our audience to be able to hear our experience and pause and, maybe take a piece of this, there are some actual like beautiful parts where I think that children could end up being more well-rounded and loved just differently than if you decided to stay, as crazy as that sounds. But
Yeah.
not only keeping them, and I think my point is not just keeping them out of big people problems, but learning the art form of just maybe like, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? Because that's practice,
Yes.
right? You have to be very
Yeah.
careful.
That is a practice. That is a practice.
You got to be very careful. Do you know how many times I'm like, I want to go off on the fact that, like your dad decided to, it's a true story. He decided not to come. I'm laughing. He decided not to come to my daughter's, it wasn't his weekend. And of course, it's ultimately his decision to decide what he wants to do with his time on when it's not his weekend. But apparently he had a bagpipe lesson. I swear to God.
Oh, watch out. St. Patrick's Day.
Do you know what it took for me to not say, your dad, there's something wrong with him? That doesn't even make sense,
Yeah.
But my daughter, I'm sure, already felt bad. The producer's cracking up. My daughter already felt bad, so I just had to take a deep breath.
It's true.
With his
imagine.
girlfriend, they went to go to a bagpipe lesson, so that's a whole nother thing. I've had my moments where I'm like, does she not realize he has 3 young kids? Like, why is she, and I'm going to get to my point with this. Why does she not encourage him to go? Because that's not her job. And I don't care about her. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's his job to decide to not go to the bagpipe lesson and come to. But my point is it took everything in me to take a deep breath and not completely making fun of their father that day, because that's not going to be emotionally good for her down the road. So
Yes.
pause And we talked about this in the last
pleasant
podcast.
pause.
Yeah.
The pleasant pause for sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, bagpipe lesson.
Yep.
Well, listen, learning new skills is a beautiful part
Jessica,
of
don't you
personal
dare
development.
defend him.
Oh no, it's not to defend him, but like sometimes we have to like rationalize this in our own minds. We're like,
I
how
love
could this
it.
be?
I
'Cause,
love
like,
it.
it's so
Right.
easy to get wrapped up in the anger.
I
Yeah.
know.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so easy to like be consumed by it because like you know what's
Yeah.
right. You
Yeah.
know what your children
Right.
need. Like we're innately like
And I think we're
attuned to
fighting for the
that.
kids because you're like,
Oh,
well,
you
I
are.
wanted
Like,
my
oh,
daughter
what's
to have
their
her father
missing?
present. And I'm like,
Yes.
what do you mean? Like,
Right.
you
As
know?
much as like
right.
I might not want him there or
Right.
you might not want him
Right.
there, but like our kid deserves
to have
to
them.
feel like they're
Mhm.
getting everybody's eyes on
Right.
them and in these special occasions.
Right. We could totally segue, I know, and who he's with is not any of my concern. It's not where I choose to invest my energy. Like, honestly, like whatever. But there's going to be like situations where you're, X is now dating somebody and, you have to learn, when to stay in your own lane.
yeah.
So this is like, I'm transitioning a little bit, but same topic because it still involves our kids. You have to learn really quick what's your business, what's not your business,
Mhm.
when to just literally listen to like frustration of your new partner without
Yeah.
having an opinion. You have to, there's a lot. So like, if you have anything to say on that, like professionally from both of your standpoints, because not only are you maintaining your new relationship with your partner and trying to stay healthy, but you're also trying to create boundaries with new partners and your children to make sure that you're not overstepping where you belong, they're not overstepping where they belong, not projecting your anger onto a new partner for where your partner is not showing up, because that's really common. I went there almost for a nanosecond and I was like, nope, has nothing to do with that new partner. Those are his decisions. So I'd love
Yeah.
to hear what you have to say.
Okay. First, I think for me, the most important thing is I don't care who he was going to choose as long as she was good to my children. As long as she was kind and caring and
Correct.
compassionate. If she wasn't, then there's a problem. Right. So
And that should be the only concern of
my
that
only,
spouse.
that's correct. That's my
and
only
that's
concern.
exactly what
but
I told.
I'm
yeah.
not, so for me, I may look at this a little differently in my
Okay.
journey in this divorce and my journey in handling partners. I really could honestly, I couldn't care about my ex that way. I couldn't care about his partner.
Right.
I was wondering, my focus was how do I transition the children
Mhm.
and how do I empower the children
Correct.
to handle the transition?
Yeah.
That
How
should
do I
always be the
empower them
focus.
to be, what they need and how to get heard when they're with their dad
Mhm.
and then transition and what do they need and how to be heard at my home.
Right.
So my focus was always on trying to develop the skills in them,
Right.
self-confidence,
Mhm.
Yeah.
self-worth,
Advocacy.
advocacy.
I love
And
that.
it's okay
Healthy.
it's okay to be mad or sad, but you have to say something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How to talk to their father because I can't triangulate. So I can't always be there. So I needed to teach them how to have the conversations with their dad when something
so
wasn't
hard.
going right. Because think about, that's what we do as moms.
Absolutely.
We are the intermediaries.
Right.
If something's a problem, most of us
Yeah.
we do the planning, we do the vacations, we do the things. So we're the intermediary. Oh, your dad didn't mean that. Or, hey, listen, we have an event. Dad, you have to come. So we're always planning and we're doing, and we're including dad in it. And
Trying
right?
at least.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's their decision
Exactly.
if they're going
We're
to show or
trying.
not. But then you want to get angry at that partner. Like, why is that partner not encouraging them to show
Yeah.
for their children? But don't go there, ladies. It has literally nothing to do with that other person. Do not invest your energy in that other person. Don't do it because you're going to go down a very vicious cycle that's going to get you nowhere.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
You got to cut to
Yeah,
the
I
beeline.
think it's important
It's
to know, like, you're probably not wrong in thinking that.
You're definitely not wrong. That person is not bringing value to them as a
You're
father.
talking about the partner?
I'm so like, yeah, I'm talking about like your ex's
Yep.
new partner is either, let's be real, depending, it's not their job either way, whether your spouse is going to be a better dad post-divorce or a worse dad post-divorce, right? But I think who you're with definitely does, ultimately he's a grown-up, he's responsible for his own decisions. But if he's now with somebody who can care the less if she spends time with his kids or a family dynamic, or you want to get frustrated with that new partner too, but in reality don't do it.
But I think that
they're irrelevant at the
that
end of
goes
the
back
day.
to the ex, though, because if the
Always,
ex is going
yes.
to then be influenced by the
Yes.
partner, or then
That's why I'm
put
saying
these
don't do
things
it.
before
Yeah.
the kids, like that says more about like
Yep.
the person than the partner.
Mhm.
But like going back to what Donna was talking about before, like I love the empowering your kids
Yeah.
to like advocate and say the right things and ask
I
for
love
what they
that.
need. But also like when I was going through my divorce, my kids were very little.
Yes.
You know? So
Yes, it's
this
very-
concept was very hard. And
It
like
is.
as much as I tried to do that, like it was very hard for them to understand that, you know?
Sure.
And my thing was like my ex introduced his partners to my kids without even telling me.
Yep. Yeah.
And then he moved one in without even telling me. I had to find out from my kids that they're now living with another person. You know, that
Good.
they've now
It's far
been-
more
a lot
common.
of varied
It happens all the
opinions on
time,
this.
right? It happens. I see it happen all
But is
I
that
think
not
a courtesy-
wild?
I think a courtesy call is nice. Like, hey, there's somebody new in my life, and I'm introducing them. Yeah, and I'm really sorry that you didn't get that.
But
I think any
it's
sound
not about
person-
permission. She was like, I don't need to
It's
tell you
not
what goes on in my
permission,
relationship.
It's
And
a
I was like, I don't
courtesy.
If
It's a
he-
courtesy
give a you know
call.
what about your relationship.
But if he
like,
was courteous,
my
you wouldn't
kids,
be
It's
divorced.
literally a courtesy
Right.
call. And you ladies, that is exactly it. You have to remind yourself,
Yeah.
like,
This
if
is
I
why we
wasn't-
are where we
if
are.
I wasn't frustrated with him 6 out of the 7 days, we would probably still be together.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
don't get too in your feels on some days.
No,
This
it's
is just a
true.
reminder
Yes.
of why you're not together. So, if you go back to our last podcast where you were in any shadow of a doubt, these are the moments where you should
Yeah.
realize,
Like,
don't
go
be.
back to this.
yeah, just
this-
reinforces like, this
reinforce.
is why
I
we
say
are
that
where
all
we
the
are.
time. My mom's like, well, Kelly, like if you wouldn't be where you're at if like he listened and you were on the same page and you could have a conversation with him. I mean, like you usually can't even have a sound conversation because it goes into an argument because we just don't communicate the same way.
Yep.
So don't forget that to some capacity.
But also, don't let his poor behavior and his actions modify yours. You stand by your
Yes.
values. You stand by
Huge.
who you are. So if you're going to be courteous, don't be like, well, he didn't tell me, so I'm not going to tell him and
Nope.
get into this. But if you were the person who would say, you know what, I'm going to be me and I'm going to hold up to my values, keep your values. Don't lower to his level.
That's
Let
hard.
other people raise
That's
yours.
hard.
And it is hard.
But you know what? Like sometimes I'm like, well, listen, if you want to set the standard,
be a
like
little
I'll
petty,
say
follow
the
your
a petty
standard.
patty.
Girl, I got a
You
petty
could be- you could be a
side,
petty
like-
patty.
I gotta admit, I know.
Absolutely. I was talking to my client, one of my clients about it this
It's
morning. Like,
true.
I'm not above certain things. But listen,
Yes.
if somebody sets the tone, like sometimes
Yeah.
you do have to kind of like ride that wave. Like
Yeah.
obviously, like in the best interest of like yourself and your children, you know, but like listen, like you don't owe anybody anything anymore. You know, so being able to like make your decisions that are in your best interest while you're doing everything
Yes.
you can as a mom bear to protect your kids.
Yes, it's in our best interest as a mother, as a woman, and for our children.
I see,
always
yeah.
looking at that.
I see some situations on like these social media platforms where people actually are like that healthy that they can elevate it to the next step. And now people are like these big, cohesive, get along, work together as a team, blended families. Like as a
Nice.
foursome, I'm like, that's really cool. Like I would
That
love
is
nothing
cool.
Yeah.
more than to
You-
be
you
that
like the
one day.
co-parenting.
Yeah, I think that is so cool because like I think people just allow like too much emotion and egos and yeah, a place of superiority. And I'm not saying like I'm not speaking from experience with that. I'm saying I'm looking from the outside in with other people's experiences. Guys, it's so much easier to just find like happiness and live cohesively
Well, I think
and
there's life
respect one
stages,
another.
right? There's
Mhm.
life stages of divorce, meaning I'm farther out of my divorce than you guys are,
Mhm.
right?
I'm
And
still
for years.
technically
So,
in it. Yeah.
so now I'm at the point with my ex-husband where we could be at the same meet. You know, we could do not christenings,
I
but
hope to get
birthdays. We could
there.
do
Yeah.
like we went to my daughter's graduation. We stayed at the same hotel together. Like
Love
he
it.
was there with
Wait,
his wife.
same room?
No,
Oh,
no.
Like Donna.
You know,
Boundaries,
by
Donna.
the way, I'm not above.
I'd be sabotaging the room.
I was like, we're cutting her mic off the rest of the day, guys. Sorry.
No. He was with his wife and I was with my husband, right? And the kids were sharing. They actually spent with him and they had a suite. But it was
Beautiful.
nice because we can do that now. We could be
Love that.
at the same party. So there is hope. And what I like the way that I give the guidance now is remember the situation that you're in and the conflict that you're in is for today. This is
Ooh,
not
I
your
love it.
forever.
It better
it's
not
to
be.
remember
Mm-mm.
that this is the way it is today. Doesn't mean it's going to be your tomorrow.
I love it. I
Well,
do just
listen, it takes two people, you know? So
Yeah.
like sometimes things don't change, but
Yeah.
like whatever it is that is going on right now, this thing is not going to be forever. And
Well,
you will have reprieve.
I do just want to take a moment
Yeah.
to remind the audience that this show is sponsored by Balanced Health and Wellness in Wading River with many locations across Long Island.
I do agree with you. And that is, we have the power to change ourselves.
Mm.
We have the power because we could choose to.
Yeah.
That our partner or our ex
Yeah.
may never change.
That's right.
I'd
They
like
may never
to,
change. And likely they won't.
I'd like to speak from a place of like experience, and we can like end the show here. So I am a product of divorce. I was bashed for that throughout my marriage, that I don't know what a real marriage is because I come from divorce. But that's not my point. I did just want to throw it in there that don't believe that, you know, if that is something that you have been told in the past. But my point is that I am a product of divorce, and both of my parents hated each other from the day they got divorced until the day that my dad got sick terminally with cancer. And at the end of the day, my mom, regardless, still showed up for my dad and helped take care of him. And my mom said, Kelly, all of those, 20, 25 years, all of those wasted years. And talk about a moment for me, because do you know how many times from 14 years old when my parents got divorced on that I wished I could still have a Sunday dinner with both of my parents, or just be in a room where we could all laugh together and still reminisce, but realize like, okay, that was then, this is now, like just normalcy. My parents literally went 25 years just for my mom to still hold my dad's hand at the end of the day while he was so don't be that, you know, if 100% hear this
don't
story,
be that.
Don't be that.
Be able to, and again, it's easier said than done. But go for the goal of being able to at least be in the same room. So your kids don't have to do that. They don't have to choose, well, I have to have a party for mom and I can't invite dad, or I can it's not good for anybody. And it's not even good for yourself because it just eats you alive.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
It's hard. Like I'm in a stage right now where like
it's hard.
We do that, but it's extremely challenging for me. You know, so like that's where like having a support system is really important to help get through like some of those moments where, you know, you're battling a lot of like the internal feelings because there's still so much unresolved. You know, so like there's the putting on a brave face for your kids.
Right.
And then there's the taking care of yourself like once you've done a really hard thing.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah, you got to remember, because it's a lot. It takes a lot for us to constantly essentially bite our tongue, because as women, we're always putting ourselves last, and you got to do that. Not last, I don't know if that's the right word, but you got to.
You're making a choice for your children and your family. You're making a conscious choice that you know this is going to help both you and the children. So the choice doesn't always feel good. So you know, like this is not going to be easy. This is not going to feel good. But like you said, is having that support system and making sure you acclimate back into life, you know, again, and giving yourself the time to maybe get a manicure, go get a massage, take a time out for yourself.
Be good to you.
Just be good to you, to give yourself.
Go for a walk. They're free, even if money is an issue throughout the process.
Like have a cry about it.
Have a cry.
Pity party. Let them last just a little while.
But set a timer, you know, like
me
too. Like
I know I literally let a pity party last 24 hours max. That's always my rule with pity parties. You
Mine is 48. Have them, but then after that 48, you get up, you get dressed, and that's it. You move on.
Yeah, get back to business.
Guys, I wanted to thank you very much for sharing your stories today. If you're wondering how you can find us and what we do outside of this roundtable talking about all things divorce, you can go ahead and log on to splithappensli.com, and all of our information will be posted there. Thanks for coming out today, ladies.
Thank you.
Of course.